So just to go over the harness with everybody, so this is the trans connector where it goes into the transmission. They provide you a bunch of different signal wires. You get a 5-volt sensor, signal ground, speed output. Let's see, your throttle position sensor, RPM input, reverse lamp, PCS CAN connector for, you know, older vehicles, neutral safety switch, brake lamp input, or brake switch input, I should say. Yeah, brake lamp input, so from the brake switch. And then you also get a CAN connector, so it can actually hook up to the crate kit and just pull a lot of those messages via the CAN. And then just another PCS CAN connector here. And then you also get a pre-wired connector to the 8-speed shifter, so all you got to do is plug that in and it gets powered up by the module. So this is the connector for the module that gets put into the vehicle. The other module itself is this PCS 2600. So let's get this module. This is all pre-calibrated, preloaded for an 8-speed, so whenever you plug it in and hook up your sensors and everything, it's ready to go. So it's a pretty awesome system. This is the same system that I'm running in the Hell Wagon. It was very easy to install, very easy to, you know, use and calibrate and all that good stuff. It's got its own OBD2 connector, so whenever you tune the transmission, you can actually use this connector instead of the other OBD connector. So it's pretty freaking awesome. But we'll get this thing installed and then get everything wired up, and we'll show you how it works. What's up, everybody? So do a little wiring here in this video. So I got my Sound German engineering kit for the Dakota. For the transmission control, there's going to be some things we need to wire up: brake switch, reverse lamp, stuff like that. We're also going to need to wire a 12-volt switch and a constant 12. So to show you here, I've got this harness here. These kits are pretty amazing. They're all labeled really well. 12-volt, switch 12-volt, and ground. So what I'm going to do is I've got these pins that I'm actually going to pin to these wires with these connectors. That way all I got to do is go into the truck, pin the other 2 connectors, pop them into the connector, and then plug it in. Like, it should be just ready to go. So we'll get started. So there we go. So now all I got to do is pop in that little gray shield there, and it'll be ready to go plug into the car once I get the car wired up with this connector. So again, just the weather seals, the 2 connectors, and should be good to go. Well, there's my little wiring table here at work. Okay, so looking at this connector here is going to be the 12-volt, and then this is going to be the switched. So I just need to make sure I put my wires where they need to go. So this is my 12-volt. Should just pop in there when it clips. And this one's gonna go here. And that clips, and then this thing just gets popped in, so that connector is ready to go. So as you can see, just put a little connector here. That way when I put the Sound German kit in, all I gotta do is plug it in instead of crimping, soldering, all that crap that I usually do. And then I gotta get this connected to a ground as well, because this is just my neutral switch, so it'll let me turn the truck over whenever we're cranking it. So that just needs to be grounded. Alright, so what I've done is I've ran the trans harness through the trans tunnel, and I ran the shifter cable wiring to the shifter, so it goes underneath here, down into there, into the shifter, into the console. And I'll have my powers that'll connect here, Then I'll have my ground that I'll probably strap here. And that should be it as far as the wiring. And then this star connector will go into the actual star connector. So I'll plug that in. That should give me my CAN messages. And then I'll hook up the trans controller and probably put it under here somewhere. I've got the covers for this coming, so this will go up into here a little bit better, so it won't look as funky. But and then I gotta get this harness here, or this one. I gotta get the brake switch into my brakes pedal, so that way when I hit the brake, it will allow me to move the shifter whenever the engine's running. So once we're all set up, should be able to get going. Alright, so I've got all my wiring kind of ran as good as I'm going to get it right now. So all this will be hidden. Here, like again, this is going to be underneath here, where that'll be hidden. And then again, the covers come out pretty far, so that'll cover most of that. Most of my wiring is tucked in here. I've got another data link connector. So now I got 3 data link connectors. One for the original car, which I will actually more than likely remove, and put this one here for the actual crate kit. Gotta wire the brake switch still, which is fine. It's just the wiring right here. And, you know, all that good stuff there. So once we get that moving, I should be good. But I just used some screws to mount the console to the floor. The console's in there. Sorry about all the mess. It's a work in progress. So, and again, here's the Challenger cluster. Everything powers up, turns on. We're actually gonna check power to the shifter here real quick. So this kit's pretty awesome. Like I said, it's in the Magnum. Gotta get this trans controller, grab my keys, and if I hooked everything up right, which I'm pretty sure I did, I should have shifter lights and power to everything else. So let's see what we got here. So, sorry, plug this guy in. This is basically the control for everything. So that just plugs in like that. So then I'll just tuck in here, move out of the way, under the console. Tucks in nice there, so you can't really see it. So now, crazy mess of keys here. So cluster turns on. I don't have power yet. I have to go over my wiring, I guess, and see what I didn't do right. Because my shifter should be turning on right now. Unless I don't, I'm pretty sure my fuses are good. Got fuses in here, I think. But anyway, attempt 1, unsuccessful, but I'll get it. I just gotta check my power wires again and see what I messed up on. So just a sec. Alright, so what I've already figured out is I think I've got my pins wrong, which I thought was kind of a possibility. So the yellow wire should be switch 12 volt and the pink wire should be switch 12 volt, but the pink wire is actually 12 volt battery, and then the red wire is the switch 12. So I just have to switch these pins here real quick and it should work. All right, so everything is wired up. The ignition is on. My trans prindle is lit up. Just have to do one other wire for the brake switch, just so it will respond to the shifter so I can move it out of park whenever I go to drive it. And then I'm just gonna mount these wires here. But again, the harness just sits under here. The module's under here. I ran the harness through the floorboard to the straight to the transmission. And everything is located inside the car, which is kind of what I wanted to do. I wish I could have done that on the Magnum. Maybe one day I'll redo it and get it to where it's not actually sitting here or sitting outside of the car. So again, here's the Challenger cluster. It's not really lit up yet, but it will work once I get it all set up. So once I am ready, I'm going to contact Sound German again, talk to Russell, and get him to hopefully flash my cluster to where it will respond with my fuel level. I won't have any of my ABS light, my airbag light, my brake light, anything like that will be on. So it looks like a normal cluster, and it recognizes the fuel gauge. So that'll be pretty awesome. And then once it's running and going, I'll then configure it to run air conditioning. That way I can still have AC in the car as well, because that was a big thing on this swap that I wanted to keep with the truck, is keeping the air conditioning, and then you know, keeping it that way too. So should be good. But everything is rolling. The fuel pump is priming up. Everything is good there. So as you can see, my fuel pressure did come up a little bit. I'm actually going to pressurize it again, and just to see where my pressure is. So we'll do that real quick, just a sec. So I was actually covering the mic here for the second of the video, but that there was a toggle switch on a relay that I was using to pressurize the fuel pump to the regulator, so I can increase the fuel pressure here. As you can see, I want to try to get it up to about 58 psi, so that's where we were trying to do that. And then I dropped my Allen. And we're back. It's funny. So there we go. We're going to set this thing to about 58 psi, 59 psi. That way, it'll sit here, and then it's good to go. So we're going to set the set screw and then turn this back off, and we're good to go. So now my fuel pressure's set. She should be ready to start up, but waiting on a power steering pump resolution. I don't have a power steering pump for this guy, and Holly did not send me all the parts in my kit for the alternator relocate. So I also need the pulley for that, and then I can run a belt, and then I can actually start it. That way I've got my water pump moving. It's already pre-filled. I've got coolant in here. I've got to hook up my downstream O2 sensor still, but aside from that, she'll be ready to fire. Pretty freaking excited. So once I do that, before I do that, I'm gonna hook up my brake booster hose so I don't have any vacuum leaks, and then we can get this thing moving. So wish me luck. All right, so the last thing on here that I did, so I actually hooked up the brake booster down and the pressure reference for the fuel pressure regulator down underneath the intake manifold. Under here. So down here you can see the fittings down underneath the intake. Down in there. We got all that hooked up. Fittings that it goes to. So one last thing that I haven't really mentioned to anybody at the moment, but I went and picked something up for the Dakota. That's kind of a final piece of the puzzle, aside from the tuning, that gets this thing ready for the street. So here we are, getting into the back of the Magnum here. As you can see, the Driveshaft. So what I had them do is I bought a Sonic's flange, and on here had them put me on a slip yoke, modify the original drive shaft to go back to the factory differential on the Dakota. That way I've got some play with the HP70, so now I actually have some room to play with the length. And that was the last bit of stuff that I needed for the Dakota to get it back on the road. So pretty excited about that. So now I got to do is get it back up in the air, bolt it up, and start tuning on this thing, I think. But should be pretty fun. I just put fresh E85 in it because that's all the truck's going to be able to run on. So pretty excited. So here she is in all her glory. RT Dakota with, I believe, a 7.2 liter Hemi. Thanks for watching.